From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Gulf Coast studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I am your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. This is Andre Johnson.
Junior.
And not forget the Junior is very important. Remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you're watching us on YouTube, you know the drill. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. Also, hello to the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. I don't know how you got here, but I'm glad you're here. Whether it was this podcast, whether it was another podcast, whether it was the Pelicans, which there's a lot of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff.
Pelican season. And, of course, the pre- and post-game shows for the Saints. So if you found us here, thank you very much. And please stay here and tell all your friends about this wonderful network known as the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Andre, first off, good to be back. We haven't been in this normal set here in quite some time. So good to be back here today. It is Friday. The Saints set sail to Carolina to face the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, NFC South foe. And this is an interesting week because the trading deadline has come and gone. And the Saints are a team that obviously is looking towards the future, but also got to do some things in the present here to get some kind of motivation, some kind of excitement back within this organization. So we'll see what happens with that. But how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. You know, like I said, it's our homecoming. We're back in the original studio, or I guess technically the original studio. That's long gone, but we're back in the new original studio. And, you know, there's a lot to talk about. You know, on the college scene, Tulane plays tonight. Last week of the regular season for high school football. You've got LSU playing Alabama tomorrow night. And then you've got the Saints going to Carolina looking for something they haven't had much of this year, which is a win. And something else they haven't had much of this year, which takes us to our big picture topic, is offensive success. This team has been struggling offensively all year. I'll get into all the numbers later, but the simple one is right now they're 29th in total offense. And when you're 29th in total offense, you got to point the finger somewhere. And we've done a lot of talking about the quarterbacks. We've talked about running backs. But there's one guy we really haven't talked about as much, and that's head coach Kellen Moore. So the big picture today, Sean, how much is Kellen Moore to blame for the Saints' offensive struggles?
I think he's got a huge portion in the blame, what's going on for an offense that, as you said, 29th in total offense. The other number that stands out, I'm sure you have this on your list as well, 31st in touchdown scored. 31st in touchdown scored. Putting the ball in the end zone, which in its purest form is what offensive football is all about. And Andre, I was thinking about this. It's to the point now. We've done the moral victory debate. We've done all this stuff. I would take a loss where they score 28 points. I would be okay with that right now because that's the one thing we have not seen just to get this offense out of its funk and back to life. So you mentioned the numbers, 29th in total offense, 31st in touchdown score, which is the stat that really stood out to me. And as I was tweeting away last week in L.A. watching the Rams game, it really started to hit me just how many people would respond to me, A, with Mickey Loomis, but B, with Kellen Moore. This offense, what is this offense? What is this offense? What is this offense? Again, I go back. 31st in touchdowns scored. Do you know, Andre, there are 5 games this season where they have scored one offensive touchdown or less. That is inexcusable. That is undeniably bad. I don't care if you're a first-year head coach. I don't care if you've lost a lot of players, which they have not this year. I mean, they lost a couple, obviously, but they have not had nearly the injury situation that they had last year. That is inexcusable. So I have to ask, when it comes to Kellen Moore, and this is starting to really creep up in his press conferences, you can tell it's really starting to pinpoint him a little bit with it, is where is the identity? What is the identity? Is it the scheme? Is it the personnel? Because averaging 15 points a game isn't anything. That's just good for nothing. One offensive touchdown a game is nothing. You cannot live by that. And even with your first-year head coach, you ain't going to get a whole lot of leeway with one offensive touchdown a game. Slow starts. That is the common theme. That is the common denominator. Slow start after slow start after slow start. We've mentioned this many times. They have not led at any point in the game 6 times this season, 6 out of the 9 games they're in, they have not had a lead at any point in the game. What is 6 and 9? Is that 2/3? That's 2/3 of the season they have not led in the game. That is absolutely horrible. But there's more. They've had 1 halftime lead this year against the Giants. They've had 1 first quarter lead against the New England Patriots, 3-0. That's it. So not only the slow starts, not leading any point in the game, they're falling behind so early in games. I cannot begin to tell you how, as an offense, as a coaching staff, as a guy who's calling plays, how much that puts you in a hole early, and you're constantly trying to dig yourself out, and you're constantly trying to catch back up instead of maintaining control of the game. Now, if you are starting slow, week in and week out, yeah, that points to the play caller, who in this case happens to be the head coach. Because if you're starting slow, that means your opening script, your 15, your 20 plays, ain't good enough. It is not good enough if you're starting slow this much, this early, week in and week out. And this is the part of the script, this is the part of the equation, Andre, that I thought would be the easiest for Kellen Moore to transition into, because he was a play caller. He did design plays in Philadelphia. He did, come up with game plans and scripts. He was a guy that, scouted all opposing defenses and came up with ideas to get ahead or to attack an opponent early in the game. And for some reason, that is not happening. I thought where he might fall short would be some learning lessons from game management, like in week 1, or some things from maybe from cultural standpoint. It's building culture. You've never done it before. But the fact that they are not leading in games and starting that slow is a massive problem, and it points right back to the head coach, who in this case is the play caller. And frankly, we could talk about the slow starts, but it's been a long time, Andre, since they finished strong. It's been a long. So you're not starting fast. You're not finishing strong. The last time there was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter was New England. What was 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
4 weeks ago? Yeah. So you're not starting fast. You're not finishing strong. You're out of the games early. And like we talked about, they were kind of playing this, offense was doing some things and, not getting over the hump, but staying, pretty respectable, staying in the game. And then they took that hard regression after the Bears game and then Tampa game, and then obviously last game with the Rams, which brings me to this falls on the head coach as well, because he ultimately made the decision, and it's a decision that we have talked about a lot on this program. The decision to wait as long as he did to turn to Tyler Shough. Well, that ultimately proved to be a bad call, because it's been a long time since the Saints offense has been competitive. And now that you have turned to Shough, we've talked about this, you inevitably have to go back to, okay, this is a rookie making his first start. You got to let him work through his mistakes, grind it out, overcome some things, get used to the speed. And, hopefully after a couple weeks, he's a little more comfortable. Well, you're already on week 9 or week 10 of the season. So you could have gotten that clock started back in week 4, back in week 1, and you probably would have been in the same exact spot, if not better, than you are right now. So for all those reasons, the slow starts, they're not scoring points, they don't have leads, they're trailing all games throughout the entire game. Look, you had to make an important decision at quarterback, and that's the decision that you made, and maybe the timing was the clock should have got started a little earlier. I say, yeah, Kellen Moore does deserve probably the biggest share of the blame in terms of the offensive lack of success, because I didn't expect major things this year. You and I understand that. But I did expect more than 15 points a game in a 1-8 record.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the first mistake he made was starting Spencer Rattler at the beginning of the season, and that is more on him than it is Rattler. You can't blame Rattler for what he is, but Kellen Moore watched the two of them from April all the way to August and said, that's our guy. And we watched him go out there and waste essentially 2 months of the season. Well, we could have got the show rolling a little earlier, but to illustrate how bad this offense is, I mentioned it earlier. 29th in total yards. They're 30th in yards per play. 31st in touchdowns. 12 touchdowns in 9 games. That means the only team behind them are the Tennessee Titans, who are rolling with a rookie quarterback, and their coach just got fired not too long ago. The Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, some of the worst teams in the world, have scored more touchdowns than you have. 22nd in passing, 20th in passing yards per play, 27th in rushing, 27th also in rushing yards per play. This offense isn't rolling in any facet. It is below average to bad. In every single measurable on the football field. And this is after you hired one of the hottest offensive minds in the coaching market. I mean, Kellen Moore was the OC for the Philadelphia Eagles, and before that, it was the Dallas Cowboys when they had the #1 offense, and he coached Justin Herbert in LA, and he won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia, and outside of Ben Johnson, Kellen Moore was the hot, young offensive mind, and he comes to New Orleans, and so far, it just hasn't panned out, and you talked about a lot of that stuff, so I'm not gonna double back on that, but I'm gonna talk about the roster. The roster's not great. We know that. But Kellen Moore, to me, hasn't been able to get the most out of this roster. And that's your job as a head coach, especially a head coach who is offensive-minded. I look at an Alvin Kamara, who's having the worst year I've ever seen him. And sure, some of that is age, but some of that is scheme as well. I mean, Alvin Kamara just last season had a career high in rushing. I don't believe Alvin Kamara has completely fallen off of the cliff from his best year rushing to now he can't do anything. I think a lot of that is scheme. A lot of that is usage. A lot of that is the slow starts that you've mentioned. When you're down 2 possessions in the first and second quarter, it's hard to commit to running the ball. So I don't think he's been able to get the best out of Alvin Kamara. If anything, I think he's gotten the worst out of Alvin Kamara that we've seen in a long time. Chris Olave, we were all expecting him to take a leap. Chris Olave hasn't taken that leap, and as we both mentioned recently, if anything, he's regressed in a lot of ways. Rashid Shaheed. Before Rashid Shaheed was traded, you weren't able to get the best out of Rashid Shaheed. His skill set wasn't utilized at all like we saw even Pete Carmichael and Clint Kubiak utilize Rashid Shaheed. They were able to get the most out of him. Taysom Hill. It seems like Taysom Hill is a step slower, but we really haven't been able to see, you know, Taysom Hill's one of the most dynamic and unique players in the league. We saw what Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael and even Clint Kubiak was able to accomplish with Taysom Hill. We haven't really seen Kellen Moore able to get anything out of Taysom. Devon Vele, a player who you trade for, a relatively big trade, a 4th and a 7th round pick, is playing a third of the snaps. Mason Tipton, your best offensive player from the preseason, can't see the field. Your O-line's been average. Just all of these things, when I look across the offense, I'm like, is anybody getting better? Are we getting the most out of any of these people? Spencer Rattler, I mean.
He got worse as the season went on.
Exactly. He got worse as the season progressed. He didn't get better as you would look for a rookie quarterback to learn from his mistakes and get better. He made more mistakes. So as I look across the offense, they're not producing. They're not scoring. They're not getting yards. They're not moving the ball down the field. And when I look at each individual player,
they're not having a good year.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's having a good year. If you asked me, Andre, who's the Saints' best offensive player right now?
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, shoot. I really couldn't tell you. Kelvin Banks Jr.? Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you at this point. The offense is at an all-time low with an offensive head coach. So when you're looking to throw around blame and play the blame game, you do at some point have to point the finger at Kellen Moore and say, we need more out of you.
Yeah, what's become alarming to me is I don't know what he wants to do still. I don't know, is he simplifying? Has he pulled a lot back based off of what he feels his team can and can't handle? What is he trying to accomplish in the run game? He doesn't seem to have a go-to run play. You know, the quick passing attack, I think it just doesn't work. I don't think he has the receivers for that. I think he has receivers that want to get a little downfield, work some routes. And I'm not talking about burners, but if you want to have that quick passing game right off the line, you'd have run after catch guys or big guys. You have neither. You don't have either. I mean, you don't. Even Shaheed, as fast as he was not a run after catch guy. He was a catch and on the run and go kind of type of guy. So it's just hard to really, it's not just that they're not producing. It's hard to figure out what kind of offense they want to be. And it's hard to point the finger at, okay, you've had all these guys in the past that have played well that are now all, you mentioned them all, not playing well now. one or two like that, well, they're not just adapting to the system, but a whole roster of them like that, that's a major problem. Every single player, I mean, Juwan, Chris Olave, I know Olave's up career highs in targets right now, but other than that, you wouldn't say he's having a wide receiver one season.
No.
Juwan Johnson feels like he's taking not a step back, just kind of plateaued a little bit. I don't know. A lot of
drops.
A lot of drops this year. So it's hard. The whole offensive operation just doesn't feel like there's any connectivity, and you've had some time to figure that out. And like I keep saying with this, unlike last year, you've had knock on, this is what, the quartz or something. I don't know what it is, but
whatever. There's some wood down here.
They've been relatively healthy. I mean, they've been healthy. So I think it's the back half of the season. Now you're playing with the quarterback that you drafted. It's time to really raise the bar. And look, I don't think Kellen Moore is in any hot seat or anything like that. But I do know this. You can't just assume that if this is the offensive production and the results remain the same from here on out. If you're averaging 12, 13, 17 points a game, you're not cracking 20, you're getting one offensive touchdown, you might have to have a conversation at the end of the year if that's the way it plays out the rest of the year. Now, I don't think it's going to happen that way because you've got some very bad teams on your schedule coming up, but you're a bad team as well. Let's just call it what it is. You're a bad team as well. So I think this is a good opportunity for the Saints this Sunday. A familiar opponent, an opponent that I don't believe is as good as their record. That I think this is a chance to be competitive and maybe get your legs back under you a little bit. They don't have a vaunted pass rush like they're 27th in sacks or something like that in the NFL. So I think this is an opportunity to. I will be disappointed if we come back here Monday morning and we're talking about another 13-point output. I will.
Yeah, definitely, because the Panthers' defense overall is average. Whether you look at the pass, the rush, they're middle of the line in most aspects, and we've seen them get torched by New England. We saw what Buffalo did to them. Dallas lost that game, but Dallas put a lot of points on them. Miami was up 17-0 on the Panthers, so the Panthers are a team that you can definitely score on. And just when I was looking at those numbers and I was comparing them to the other teams at the bottom, it's almost like at least those teams have something to look forward to. The Raiders' offense is horrible, but that Ashton Genty is something real.
They got Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers is a monster. The Jets' offense is terrible, but at least you've got Garrett Wilson, one of the best young receivers in the league. The Browns stink, but the 1-2 punch of Quinshon Judkins and Louisiana's finest Dylan Sampson, up there, at least it gives you something to look forward to. At this offense, I'm like, man, maybe at one point you could look forward to, what Spencer Rattler could be, but that didn't pan out. Now you can hopefully look forward to what Tyler Shuck can be, but, we're still very early in that process as well. But another thing about Kellen Moore that has really stood out to me is he hasn't been able to put his personal stamp on this team. And when I say that, I'm referring to the tush push. We've seen him try to run his play that he helped make famous in Philadelphia, the tush push multiple times. It's been penalty, flagged every time. He tried to run the Philly special in Buffalo.
Didn't work.
Chris Olave got picked off throwing to Spencer Rattler. He hit a medium route to Taysom, who then threw the lateral for a big first down, penalty, run it back. Every time he's tried to put his own personal stamp and show that creativity, the reason that the Saints wanted a young offensive mind like him, the team hasn't been able to execute it.
And let me just say with that, because sometimes a trick play can really ignite your team, but sometimes a trick play feels like I'm out of options. I got to try something crazy. And every time he's tried it, it felt like the latter for me. It felt like I'm out of options. We need something crazy here to get going, and it just everything else I've tried hasn't worked. So I always go back and forth when it comes to creativity and trick plays, because sometimes trick play can kind of shift momentum, but that can't be your identity. Obviously, I'm much more into the identity of what you do down, your bread and butter, down in and down out, which no one knows what it is. So it's like, how can you realistically have an honest opinion that's anything close to positive with Kellen Moore when everything else, from the offensive standpoint, when everything about it has just been bad, not even average, or even below average, just been bad all season.
Bottom of the league. But one thing that will quiet this talk down is if the Saints can come out and make some noise Sunday against Carolina, and for this Saints offense to get going, we're going to have to see Tyler Shuck take another step. Now, he only got 35 snaps against the Rams. It was a very small sample size that we got to see him. I believe you gave him a C. I gave him a C+, relatively average and the little bit of run that he got in that game. We expect him to get more against Carolina. So really, what do you expect to see out of Tyler Shough in his second career start?
Like, I went back and rewatched the game again, the All-22, and he didn't have a third quarter, so he was able to play 3 quarters. He only had to play 3 plays in the third quarter. First quarter, I felt he was a little tight. The second and fourth quarter, I felt like he played well. I like the fact that, the game wasn't moving too fast for him, because I felt like that was an issue early in camp for him, and I felt like that was an issue up until maybe week 2 of training camp, and he got steadily better with that. I like the way he handled pressure for the most part. It wasn't quite panicky. It wasn't perfect in that regard, but it was a little bit better. I didn't feel like early in the game Kellen Moore did him any favors. I understood in theory what Kellen Moore was trying to do, which was get his young quarterback some easy completions early, but I felt like he was kind of tight, and the playbook was kind of tight, if that makes any sense. As the game went on, they added a little air in some of those concepts, and I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a little bit more, they call it the levels concept, where it's short, medium, deep. Add some spacing in between those routes, because, you go back and watch, it was a 3rd and 7 early in the game, and there's 4 receivers all running 5-yard routes, and it's all congested in a tight space. And I don't know that lends to the receivers, because they catch and fall, or a big arm quarterback like Tyler Shough. So I expect him to be better, because he got the first game jitters out the way. He got the first holy crap, welcome to the NFL moment out the way. Did y'all hear what he said about couldn't close his jaw?
Yeah.
And he said he had to get a needle in his jaw. He said it hurt like crazy. That sounded so painful when he told us that. And he kind of talked to us as he was leaving the press conference. He goes, I just couldn't move my jaw. I was like, dude, I don't know how you stayed in the game, because you can't haul, your jaw's kind of just knocked straight like that. So kudos to him for toughing it out. So I'll just say this. You can feel his maturity. I don't know how good he's going to be, but you can certainly feel his maturity. And I think he's hopefully going to take week 1 from week 2. But more importantly, I hope the head coach and play caller understands what worked and didn't work from week 1 to week 2, because the likelihood of them only having the ball for 16 minutes is slim and none. I think they're going to have the ball for a regular allotment of time in an average NFL game. And if he has that, hopefully he can play better. I think he will play a little bit better. We got to have more than just one offensive touchdown. We got to have more than one offensive touchdown. Just that simple.
Yeah, and to that point, Tyler's going to have to make every possession count, because if there is a team in the league that can limit your time of possession, it's the Carolina Panthers, because that's the style of ball they look to play, especially the way Rico Dowdle is rolling right now. They want to run the ball. They want to keep the ball out of the opponent's hands. They want to limit your possessions and make every mistake so much more crucial. The Packers had a fumble. The Packers had a 4th down in the red zone where Jordan Love threw an incompletion, so it was a turnover on downs. Those wound up being critical mistakes in the game where they lost by 3 points. Yeah. So Tyler Shough, you kind of have to avoid. Obviously, it's hard to play perfect, but you have to make every possession count. You have to get points when you can get points, because you may not get as many chances as you would hope. At the same time, you've got to be free. Avoid the boneheaded play. I'm not going to dub his interception as a quote-unquote boneheaded play, because I think in that situation,
it
was either take the sack or take a shot. He took a chance, it got picked off, but you're going to have to play free. Tyler Shough is not Spencer Rattler. You mentioned it. In the first quarter, it's almost like with a basketball player. You send them out there and you just want to let them see the ball go through the hoop. Let them get a few layups before we start drawing up some plays for the 3-point shots and everything. They let them take a few short shots early in the game, similar to the Spencer Rattler style of play. But it really didn't work for Tyler Shough.
It doesn't. I think it constricts him a little bit, tightens him up.
He didn't hit his stride until he got to really start throwing those intermediate routes. So let him play free. And the biggest thing that can help them win on Sunday, can we please score more than 20 points? Can we please? The Saints have scored 20 points 2 times this season. One of them in a loss to the 49ers. So can we please score 20 points? And to your point, that's going to happen by running the football.
That was the handoff. That's what I was doing. That was a handoff right there.
Run the football. Commit to the run. I don't think this running game is dead, even though we've seen it fall from top 10 to
it's 27. On life support right now.
There really hasn't been a game where you could commit to running the ball as well, because the Saints have been behind. They give up on the run game so easily. those first 2 games of the season where you were committing to the run and running the ball 30 times a game, you had some level of production. So you got to commit to running the ball, because I don't want Tyler, just like I didn't want Spencer Rattler, I don't want Tyler Shuck throwing the ball 35 times.
No.
I'd rather him throw it 23 times. Let Alvin Kamara get 20 touches. Let Devin Neal get 10 to 12 touches. You got Velus Jones Jr. still around. Let him get a few touches. But whatever leads to them scoring 20 points, because this whole 15 points and out thing is not going to win you any football games.
So we know they're going to have a new starting left guard, and Dylan Radins, who was the old starting left guard when Penning was out. I talked to him. You'll see that on Sunday on the Fox State Live tailgate. Let's read the rest of the names. Kamara questionable, Stoll questionable, Jonah Williams questionable, Brian Brzee questionable. That's someone to watch. And the only one out is Taliese Fuaga. So you'll probably have Asim Richards as your right tackle, I would think. I don't know for sure, but that would likely be the case. And then you have Chandler Zavala for Carolina, Bryson Tremaine, and Tet McMillan is questionable too at popping up with the hamstrings. That's something certainly to watch. So the Saints, again, not perfect health, but by this point last year, they were so devastated with injury. And remember, this was the game last year that sent DA packing. Yep. So 1 year later, it's interesting to see where the organization is. I'm going to call it like this. I'm not going to call a Saints victory. I'm not going to do it. I am going to call a competitive game.
Yes.
A game where they're in it late. A game where they will have a chance in the fourth quarter. It's sad that we're pointing at it, to take a lead. How about that? Not win, but in the fourth quarter they'll have a chance to take a lead. It will be within 1 score. That's how far we have gone and fallen when it comes to offensive football. It is what it is. The rebuild is here. Anything else before we get out of here?
The Panthers needed a 17-point comeback to beat the Dolphins, the game-winning field goal to beat the Cowboys and the Packers. The Panthers are not a team that blows people out the water unless you're the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers are a team that you can play with. The Panthers are a game that I expect to be close, but watch Bryce Young at the end of games. He's got 11 career wins, 9 of them on game-winning drives. You don't want him to have the ball last.
Not good at anything except that, Bryce Young. All right, we got to get out of here. Andre Johnson Jr., Sean Fazende. Catch you guys next time on Overtime.